Desiree Taylor, and I'm representing Group D. We did Chapter 12, which was Internationalization of Higher Education. And if you're following along, I am starting now at slide 2, the slide after the cover page. Okay, so basically, internationalization of higher education is combining the international piece with the already active functions of a college program. Um, and so it is a really good outlook on the school because it's bringing in diversity and multiculturalization, and it's just a really good outlook on the school. It just makes the school look more accepting. And so, but the problem is that a lot of people like to interchange globalization and internationalization like they're the same word, but they're not. Globalization is more about trends worldwide, whereas internationalization is about focusing on what's going on with universities and higher education. So basically like trends within the university sector. And then on slide 2, we see reasoning for internationalization, which can be anything. I mean, it could be political, it could be economic, it could be academic, it could be cultural or social. It just really depends on the climate of the country and just what's going on for them to kind of decide if they're going to be for it or if they're not going to be for it. It just kind of depends on what's going on in the country. And okay, on slide 3, we just see some internationalization approaches, specifically focusing on the UK. And there is some research that basically shows that the UK has engaged in unfair treatment of their international students. And we see that the international students are paying over $4 billion to these universities. And not only that, they're spending another $5 billion just off campus. And it supports about, over 200,000 jobs in the UK. And so these students are basically seen as cash cows. And so once they bring them in, they just kind of, leave them. They don't really take care of them that much. And you can even see about 2/3 of the students that they're recruiting can't even speak English that well. So, I mean, that's just proof right there that they're not even really even recruiting kids that even understand English. So that's even more showing that, there's just income generation. And, once the students get in, they're just treating them like they're a burden and like they're problematic. And so it's just not a good practice. That's not what you want to be known for. And so that's very questionable to me. And then on slide 4, we see a web. Internationalization is in the middle. And then we see it makes way for, collaborative partners, curriculum, research services, teaching and learning, which are all good things that you want your program to be part of. And so internationalization brings those things, but of course you want to make sure that you're treating your students fairly. And so on slide 5, we see how much more international students are coming into the UK countries. And so we see in 1955 there were about 28,000 international students, and in 2016 there was almost 450,000 international students. Most of these students are from China and then the United States. So I mean, they're making a lot of money on these international students. And so on slide 6, we see some more questionable practices. We see poor treatment and false advertising, and racial tension, which, I mean, you know, college is not cheap. It's really expensive. And so, you know, to know that, you know, there's students that are traveling away from home, paying all this money for school, and, you know, they're not treated fairly. On top of that, they have to worry about, you know, racial tension. And so it's just, you know, that's not obviously the best practice. It's very problematic. And so on slide 8, we see some criticisms, other than the one I just said, of internationalization. These are actually myths, though. These ones are not true. Number 1 is the more international students there are, the more the curriculum will only focus on international cultures, which is not true. Number 2, the more international students that are at a university, the more prestigious and higher quality of the education. That's absolutely not true, because we just saw in the slide above that, you know, the international students are coming in and they're not treated better, and so the quality of education is just not there. So that's not true. Number 3, the more agreements between countries, the better institution. That's not necessarily true in all cases. Number 4, the more international accreditations an institution has, the better it is. That's not true, because they can have every single international accreditation and not be better than a school that doesn't have any international accreditation. So that's not true. Number 5, the entire purpose of internationalization is to work on branding. I don't think that one is completely, you know, the only reason of internationalization. Like we saw on the slide before, I was talking about, you know, economics, political, you know, social, cultural. So there could be many reasons why a country decides to bring in international students. So there are some positive things, though. Globalization has led to internationalization of higher education around the world. So, you know, it is bringing in more students of other nations to other, you know, countries that maybe they wouldn't have visited before. And so there's, you know, it's bringing in more diversity, you know, which is a good thing. You know, there is some, you know, pros to that. You know, schools are getting, you know, grant money, and more funding if they're, you know, obviously more diverse. But this is good. You know, diversity is seen more acceptable in other places than America, and that is good. So, and I'm going to read a quote by Marshall. It says, with more and more students studying abroad and the proliferation of collaborative research and academic partnerships, there are greater chances for peace, understanding, and tolerance among individuals and nations. And that is the conclusion for the presentation for Group D. Thank you.